Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks. Welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and special edition of This Week in Weather. Let's talk about Tropical Storm or potentially Hurricane Laura. I am your Captain of Chaos, your Colonel of Confusion, your Commander of Catastrophe. Let's talk about this system and see what the heck is going on. There's a picture of my smiling face from Richmond, Virginia. And let me get my slate. There you go. There you go. And that's on my emails and my Twitter page. You can reach me that way if you want to do that. So a lot to talk about in this system. I think the forecast track here is not very good, and I'm a little worried that the track is not going to work out very well. Let's take a look at this official track. This here is the 5 o'clock advisory. You can see what it's doing. It cuts across the western tip of Cuba and then turns up. That's the way John Kennedy would say it, Cuba. So I don't call it Cuba, but whatever. Anywho, it turns up into the central Gulf and then makes a fairly sharp turn and makes landfall in western Louisiana, or just to the east of the Texas-Louisiana border. This here is our latest, a very, very recent satellite picture, infrared. And you can see most of the convection is on the south side of it, away from the landmass. But there is some stuff developed trying to wrap around on the north side. And the visible picture also shows, decent looking tropical storm. The winds are 50 miles an hour, 55. Not that impressive just yet. Now, this is the one from last Thursday. If you remember the track, the track was going to pass north of the big islands of Hispaniola, north of Puerto Rico, and go into Florida. Maybe the Florida Panhandle, maybe make it as far west as Mobile, Alabama. Remember that? And then this is the track here from Saturday, August 22nd. You can see again right over the Hispaniola, Cuba, and then into central Louisiana, placing New Orleans on the fairly strong eastern side of the system. Remember that? Well, that turned out to be wrong because, as we know, the system has stayed much, much further to the south and west. Instead, we have consistently seen Laura do this. And as a result, this track turned out to be bullshit, and the other tracks have turned out to be wrong. And we can see the bias here. Now, this plot shows the GFS plots from the last several runs, and you can see this goes back to Sunday, early Sunday morning. And now the red axis is the actual track, okay? So you can see the red axis down here. Let me see, point it out. See down here, there's the red axis, right? That's the actual track. Now, these are the recent forecasts, and as you can see, they were all over Cuba and then taking it up into here. But if the system is taking this further out track like that, that places a bigger threat to Houston and southeastern Texas than it does to Louisiana. So that's what I'm concerned about here. And that's not just the GFS is showing that as well. And remember, why this is important is that all of the hurricane models are run off the GFS grid. So if the GFS has this bias, all the other hurricane models are going to have this bias as well. That's an important problem. Now, this is the Canadian. Yee! That's just bad. Okay, that's wrong. Okay, so the Canadian, we can just throw that out the shitter. That's not happening. Ooh, that's a bad forecast. And the trend there. Now, this here is the UK model, the UK, the British model. And the Brits are doing a fabulous job with this system. The most accurate track by far. You look at the blue lines and the red X's, they match up perfectly. But look where the solutions are. In the Houston, Texas, southeastern Texas area, west of the Texas-Louisiana border. This is a warning sign, you can't ignore this stuff. This is where the trend is going. It's shifting west, no doubt about it in my mind. This here is the fabulous European, and look what the European's doing. Now, the European is not as far north as the GFS, but it's still off the track. You can see that. Again, the red X's are further south than any of the forecast tracks, and even so, the vast majority of the tracks are taking it into southeastern Texas. Now, if you adjust for the red line, then again, you have a big problem for the Houston metro area, Galveston Bay area. Now, what's driving this is very simple. This here is the upper air map. This is from Sunday night, okay, and the image on the left. So we can see our heat ridge, our heat dome, very pronounced there over the Rockies, and bringing the extreme heat to California and the Rockies and that sort of stuff. And and what's happening is the heat, the leading edge of the heat dome, which you can see right here, has now reached Iowa. For the first time all season, Iowa got to 96 degrees on Sunday afternoon, Des Moines, Iowa. That hasn't happened yet before. Omaha got to over 100. Hasn't happened before. So this is an important development. So there is Marco and there is Laura south of Cuba. And what's happening is, you see the blue lines, they're driving towards Texas, and because they're pushing up against the heat dome is squirting to the east over the top of it into the Midwest. And as we can see on the image on the right-hand side, by Wednesday, Marco, the remains of it, is now in upper low in central Texas. And here comes Laura headed for the Texas coast, and the heat ridge is to the north of it. So this is how the upper air pattern is driving the system. Also, you can clearly see the Bermuda High, or the West Atlantic Ridge. Let me call it up for you. See the dark red area there? There it is, right there. That's the Bermuda High. So these systems have to go around it. That's what it's going around the western periphery of the high. That's what's driving the system. That's what's driving the upper air patterns here and the overall pattern in the eastern United States. Now, this is just to show you how these temperatures explode. This is the GFS ensembles from Sunday night. And remember, the GFS ensembles are usually cooler than the operational run. But you can see, look at the impressive heat in Nebraska and Iowa. And on top of that, they had the derecho a couple of weeks ago, 10 days ago, that knocked down all that corn, and they haven't had any rain in Iowa for the past 35 days. No rain over an inch in many portions of Iowa. So the corn crop there, the bean crop there, is in big, big trouble. And at least in Missouri, they've had a lot of rain in central and southern Illinois, but nothing in Iowa. In fact, if you look at Iowa right now, they're in drought 3, believe it or not. If you look at the drought monitor map, call it up. Drought 3 in Iowa. So this is a big, big problem here, and that continues for the rest of the week. You can see going into Wednesday, Thursday, and then there you go, into Thursday, Friday. You can see the heat continues there before it finally comes to an end. Now, just to show you, this is the British model from, look at the date on the bottom here. Look at the date on the bottom. August 21st, the 0Z run. And no, excuse me, this is the 12Z run, excuse me. Friday morning, last Friday morning, the 12Z run. Look where it had Laura, south of Cuba. Everybody else had it up here. But nope, look where the British model had it, right there. That's some damn good forecasting, boys and girls. That's damn good eating right there if you're looking for a good hurricane model. That's why the British model is so well thought of. And there's your Bermuda High. See that right there? And again, it has to go around it. That's what it has to do, and that's what it's going to do. Okay. So let's go on to the next slide. Now, this is the British model, the new one. And you can see this is today's British model. It has it in southeastern Texas, not Louisiana. Okay, now obviously it's going to be stronger than 1,002 millibars, but it's showing the general idea here. Now, with regard to what the upper air pattern looks like here on Wednesday night and a Thursday morning, this is the European. You can see the landfall, the operational landfall, the upper air map is in southeastern Texas between the Texas-Louisiana border and Houston, maybe Beaumont or Port Arthur, something like that. And you can see the enormous heat ridge, or a very impressive ridge here, very, very significant. Let me call it up right in this whole area. See that ridge? And of course, this here is the Bermuda High. Look at the center of the high right there, 594 decameters, and there is the western flank of it. See what it's doing? It's going around the western flank. And the western flank goes into Arkansas. See that? And down to Cuba. So that's why the European has a much stronger Bermuda High here than the GFS. Now, here's the GFS model, same time frame. Look where the Bermuda High is. Much weaker. Does it have a core in Georgia? No, it does not. And look at the flank. It goes to Mississippi, Tennessee. It doesn't go to Arkansas. And because this is weaker, the hurricane models turn it further, sharper to the north sooner. So that's what the issue is. How strong is the western flank of the Bermuda High in the deep south states? That's the key right there, boys and girls, of whether or not the hurricane models and the GFS is going to be correct, or the European and the British model is going to be correct. Excuse me. Now, here is the this is the hurricane models at the 18Z. Yep. And they haven't changed. Again, all of these models, all of them are based off the GFS. So the GFS has a weaker flank, western Atlantic ridge here, western Bermuda High. It turns it sharper to the north, to the east of the Texas-Louisiana border, and then it turns to Texas and goes into southern Virginia. Now, that's going to be a problem later on for Virginia, maybe North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee. All that energy, yeah, there's a tornado threat here, folks. There potentially is down the road. There's definitely a tornado threat in these areas at the end of next week, the 28th, the 29th. It's up there. So that's something else to keep in mind. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, then now this again, this is the official track, so you can see 18Z 5 o'clock, 18Z models 5 o'clock, National Hurricane Center. It's completely based upon the hurricane models. It completely. There's no other consideration for it. Now the problem is this is again is the European model from 12Z, and you can see what it's doing. The black line is the operational trend, so I don't know if you can see that a little bit, but I'll try and highlight. I have another slide I can highlight it for you in a second, but you can see the operational trend, and the vast majority of these spreads are all west of the Texas-Louisiana border and very close to Houston and Galveston. So I think that's a problem. Now again, and then again, here's the other thing is, again, for folks in Iowa, are they going to get any of this rain? No. Here's the Bermuda High right here. It goes right around the periphery. And look at that turn, boys and girls. Wham! What a turn. And then it goes right into Virginia, North Carolina, again with potentially maybe a severe weather threat down the road. Okay, this here is the operational European model. You can see that actually this is one from 6Z, and again look at the trend, taking it right into Houston from early this morning. The 6Z operational European, boom, right into Houston. Whew, that's scary. Okay, and this here is the 6Z ensemble spread, and again look how far west it is. Now this is the 12Z, and this is the 6Z, and they're almost identical. You're not seeing much movement here. So whatever the European's showing, it's not a fluke. All right? And the European ensembles, it's not a fluke. Look, and the black line here, again, on this image, again, you can see the black dot circles. That's the operational run. Now, this is the 12Z run. Again, this is just up to landfall time. And you look at the black line. See the black line there? Going right up into Houston. I mean, direct hit. Good. Houston, Galveston Bay, right on the eastern side of it. Boom! Woo! Scary, just scary. Now, would it be a category 2, a category 3? Obviously it's going to be a 2. I would think that's a really good probability. It could easily be a 3. I couldn't rule out a 4, depending on how long it's over the water and how fast it intensifies. That's a guess. You can't rule it out. So this is a problem. This is a serious threat for the Houston area, and I think I'm wondering if too many people are focusing on Louisiana. If this turns out to be right, this is going to be another big win for the European model, folks. There's no two ways about that. We had Joaquin, we had Sandy, we had Isaac. It just keeps racking up these big wins here. So we'll see if it goes to that into part of Texas or not, or whether it goes into western Louisiana. All right. This here is, again, the 12Z guidance longer term, and you can see now the blue line, the black line here, the black line is the ensemble mean, which is right along the Texas-Louisiana border. The other lines are all to the east here. You can see that very clearly. The west of that. So, again, that's a threat for southeastern Texas. And if we look at the spread where the lows are, look at that. Yeah, you see almost nothing on the Louisiana coast. It's all in central southeastern Texas. And I'm a little worried, I got to tell you. I'm not happy with that. And again, this is the British model. We saw that earlier. And then what happens afterwards? Okay, so it goes around the periphery of the high. This is the European model. Now look at the date here. This is valid Saturday morning, August 29th. So this feature right here, that's the remaining energy in the upper low of Laura. It's now just low pressure area, but it's clearly moving through Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky, going into Virginia, North Carolina. We can clearly see that. And then this here is the GFS. And again, this is the GFS. It has a fairly strong upper low here over Tennessee, and it goes right into Virginia as well. So, and if we look at the surface maps, just give you an idea of what that looks like. Now, this is the European model from early on this Monday morning. And you can see the main low pressure area, in case you can't see it, right there. Very potent looking. It's got a couple of isobars around it. That's got to be around 990 millibars, something like that. Let's see here, 998, 996, 992. A lot of vorticity, a lot of spin in this system. This would be pretty dangerous if it moved through Virginia with a potential tornado threat. Maybe. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. This is the 12Z run, and it's got the low in North Carolina, which places central and most of Virginia and northern North Carolina in the tornado threat as well. So, some adjustment as to where the low is going to go, but you can see the model is clearly showing a potent system moving through either central North Carolina or central and southern Virginia. The GFS is absolutely wretched. It's pathetic. It's got a little tiny pimple of a low right there. It's nothing, okay? And then the whole system falls apart and becomes absorbed with the other cold front coming down from the north, and you end up getting a low over north central Pennsylvania and another implied low kind of here, something like that. Ugh, pathetic. Oh man, it's just sad. That's just sad. So anyway, the difference between this and this is just, look at the difference. I mean, come on, folks. Okay, and finally beyond that, a massive trough comes in here at the end of August, beginning of September. Look at that trough on the European ensemble. Woo, woo! That's nice to see. You got cool air coming in, monster trough ridge on the west coast. Yeah, baby. That's what you want to see. In terms of temperatures, look at this for max temperatures on August 31st in New England. Here, and you can see again, this is the evening hours, so this is a little cooled off a little bit. Let me see if I find a better map for that. And here we update. I switched the map out here so you can see it. Look at the max temperatures the afternoon of the 31st. 60s and 60s in New England, 70s, the mid-Atlantic states into the Ohio Valley. Look at that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No, we're not kidding you. Look at that. And then finally, last picture here for you on this video. Look at this for, excuse me, make sure I got the right one here. Nope. Yeah, September 7th. There you go. And you can see, again, a max temperatures 70s to around 80 in much of the eastern half of the country, north of Interstate 40, which is the highway runs across Tennessee and North Carolina. So super nice weather coming in. Let's hope that this actually is actually real. It probably is. And that would be a very, very good sign. Anyhow, that's a presentation. This is meteorologist DT from Weather Risk. I'll see you on the Facebook page and on the Twitter page.